are stories that never begin with a map. No marked destination, no clear path, only whispers passed from one traveller to another about a place that exists somewhere beyond the clouds, a place so peaceful that many believe it to be nothing more than just a dream. In a world built from imagination, where mountains rise from the earth and oceans stretch beyond the horizon, there is one place unlike any other, not hidden beneath the ground, nor locked behind ancient walls, but suspended high above everything else, a village floating gently amongst the sky. Some say it only appears to those willing to slow down long enough to notice it. Others believe it reveals itself only when someone needs a reminder that hope still exists. Perhaps both stories are true. As the clouds begin to part, the first rooftops emerge, tiny homes balanced upon islands that seem impossible. Bridges stretch gracefully through open air, connecting neighbours separated not by distance, but by the courage to cross. The village feels alive, not with noise, but with quiet purpose. Lanterns glow warmly beneath wooden roofs. Flowers bloom from window boxes. Vines wrap around ancient stone. Every home to tell its own story, was becoming part of something much larger. Nothing here was rushed. Every path, every tree, every lantern, every bridge, everything belongs. And perhaps that's the first lesson that this place quietly offers. Not everything has to stand alone. Sometimes the most beautiful things exist because they are connected. The fairies who call this place home are never in a hurry. They move with the rhythm of the wind, helping one another, sharing what they have, looking after the gardens, repairing old bridges, and lighting lanterns before nightfall. No one asks who deserves kindness. It is simply given. Imagine a world where people greeted one another, not because they expected something in return, but because compassion was simply part of everyday life. Imagine how different that world would feel. As you wander further, the village slowly unfolds. Crystal streams drifting between floating islands, tiny waterfalls disappearing into clouds below. Ancient trees growing impossibly from stone, their roots embracing the island that supports them. Everything feels fragile, yet somehow perfectly balanced. It reminds us that strength doesn't always look heavy. Sometimes the strongest things are gentle. There's a quiet library tucked beneath flowering branches, a small marketplace where laughter drifts throughout the air. Tiny cottages glowing softly from within, each one unique, each one loved. No home competes with another. No path is more important than the next. Everything contributes. Everything matters. Maybe people are like that too. It's easy to believe that our worth comes from being the loudest, the fastest, or the most successful. But places like this remind us that simply existing with kindness has value far beyond measure. There are days when life can feel incredibly heavy, when responsibilities seem to pile higher than mountains, and when thoughts become difficult to untangle, and smiling feels like work. If you've ever felt that way, you're far from alone. Even the brightest places cast shadows, and that's okay. Imagine sitting quietly on one of these floating bridges, watching clouds drift beneath your feet, feeling the breeze, hearing nothing but birdsong and distant waterfalls. For just a few minutes, there are no deadlines, no expectations, no pressure to be anything other than yourself. Sometimes that's exactly what we need. Not answers, just space. We often forget that rest isn't something we earn, it's something that we need. Just as gardens need rain, trees need sunlight, and rivers need time to flow, people need moments of stillness too. Taking a break doesn't mean you failed, it doesn't mean you stopped moving forwards. Sometimes it's the very thing that allows you to continue. The fairy village seems to understand this. Nothing here ever rushes. Nothing forces tomorrow to arrive sooner. Everything grows at its own pace. Perhaps that is why it feels so peaceful, because nothing here is trying to become something else. It simply embraces what it already is. As evening approaches, the entire village begins to glow. Hundreds of tiny lanterns awaken. Soft, golden light spills across wooden walkways. Windows shimmer like stars. The clouds below reflect every colour onto the sky itself, feels alive. And for a moment, you forget that this place was built block by block. It feels real, not because of the materials, but because of the feeling that it creates. Wonder, comfort, belonging. Maybe that is what imagination has always been. Not escaping reality, but reminding us that beauty still exists within it. The village slowly disappears into twilight, not because it is leaving, but because some places are never meant to be possessed, only experienced, only remembered. Perhaps tomorrow another traveller in need will find these floating islands. Perhaps someone carrying worries that they haven't spoken aloud. Someone searching without even realising it. And perhaps this village will offer them exactly what it offered you: a moment of peace, a little hope, and the quiet reminder that even when life feels uncertain, there is always somewhere where kindness still lives. As you begin your journey home, one final thought remains. Wonder isn't something we leave behind as children. It's sometimes something that we forget to look for. It's in quiet mornings, shared laughter, small victories, unexpected kindness, a helping hand, a conversation that arrives exactly when it is needed. The world can sometimes feel noisy, busy, complicated, but places like this remind us that peace doesn't have to be found in another world. Sometimes it begins with the way we choose to see this one. So keep creating, keep imagining, and keep believing that kindness matters, because every beautiful world, whether built from blocks or built through the choices that we make every single day, begins with someone deciding to create something good. Before you continue, give yourself permission to pause. You don't have to carry everything all at once. Even the clouds drift without rushing, and they still find their way across the entire sky. Sometimes the kindest things you can do for yourself is simply rest and take a break. As you look across the village one last time, you begin to notice something you hadn't seen before. It isn't the glowing lanterns or the bridges suspended above the clouds. It isn't even the tiny cottages nestled amongst the trees. It's the feeling that every part of this place was built with care, not because it had to be, but because someone believed it was worth creating. Perhaps that's the true magic of imagination. It allows us to leave little pieces of ourselves behind. Every block we place, every path we shape, every world we create becomes part of a story that someone else might one day discover. Maybe they'll only stop for a moment. Maybe they'll stay for much longer. But either way, they'll experience something that once existed only as an idea. And that's a remarkable thing. Sometimes we underestimate the impact of the things we create. A kind message, a helping hand, a conversation, a build like this. We often assume that they disappear the moment they're finished, but they don't. They stay with people, sometimes in ways that we'll never fully understand. Maybe someone exploring this village today needed somewhere quiet. Maybe they arrived carrying worries that they hadn't shared with anyone. Maybe they simply wanted a few moments where life didn't feel quite so overwhelming. And if this place gave them that, even for a little while, then every block was worth placing. The same is true outside of this world. We rarely know what someone else is carrying. That smile we pass in the street, the message we send, the few minutes we spend checking in with a friend. They may seem small to us, but to someone else, they could mean far more than we will ever know. Kindness doesn't have to be extraordinary. It simply has to be genuine. The fairies seem to understand that. They don't chase greatness. They don't compete to shine the brightest. Instead, they create a place where everyone has room to belong, where every lantern adds to the light, every bridge brings people closer together, and perhaps that's a beautiful way to think about our own lives. None of us are meant to light the entire sky alone, but together, even the smallest lights can make the darkest of nights feel welcoming. As the evening grows quieter, the stars begin appearing above the village, one by one, never all at once. Each one adds a little bit more light than the one before. Hope often works like that too. It rarely arrives as one grand moment. More often, it appears little by little. One good conversation, one peaceful afternoon, one reason to keep going, until eventually you look back and realise the darkness isn't quite as overwhelming as it once felt. So before this journey comes to an end, take one last look around, listen to the wind, watch the lanterns sway gently beneath the floating islands. Notice how peaceful everything feels. And remember, places like this may be born from imagination, but the feelings that they leave behind are real. Wonder, hope, belonging, the courage to keep moving forward. Sometimes that is the greatest adventure that any world can offer. As the fairy village disappears into the clouds, remember that its greatest magic wasn't found in floating islands or glowing lanterns. It was found in the feeling that it left behind. If you'd like to join a community that shares these builds, stories, and moments of creativity, you'll find a link to the Discord in the pinned comment below. And remember, speaking up is strength. Whether you're celebrating life's brightest moments or facing its hardest ones, your voice matters, and there will always be people willing to listen. Until next time, keep creating, keep wondering, and never stop believing that a little kindness can change somebody's world. Wherever your journey may lead next, remember to take care of yourself, take care of others, keep bringing a little more light into the world, and keep creating a little wonder wherever you go. And we'll see you in the next video.